So the other week I had an episode with the ex-Squarespace CEO with Dane from Ardeco, and I posted about the episode online, and like the one of the most interesting stories, which was what I posted about, was that when Dane started Ardeco, his idea was to sell like software to coffee shop owners, right? And the idea was for the software to help coffee shop owners better predict future sales so that they could optimize the logistics side, the back office side, like supply chain, inventory, these sort of things. And as he started doing that, he just, because he spends so much time with customers, he actually has a rule that he has to be in a coffee shop every single day, talk to customers every single day, even today, even after raising over $200 million. But anyways, because he was spending so much time with customers, he just realized what their day to day really looked like and what their problems truly were. And the bottom line is that this software idea sounded cool to many operators, but they weren't really pulling it out of his hands. He wasn't getting the demand that he was hoping to get. And the reason was they just had bigger problems. They had much bigger problems. For example, in many cases, the deliveries, like their supplies weren't coming on time, or they weren't coming at all, or, there's just like things around HR. Like there's just so many other things that it takes to actually run a coffee shop. And so what Dane's idea was, okay, I think we just need to do much more. I think we need to solve a bigger problem. And what he wanted to do was go from like pure B2B SaaS, high margin, high multiple, easy to scale, to taking on the entire logistics backend. And the way that he framed it was he wants to give independent coffee shop owners the same sort of a supply chain experience that a franchise owner has. So basically, like get all the upsides of a franchise or big corporate chain like Starbucks, but while staying totally independent. But the bottom line is that way, coffee shop owners can focus on the customers, can focus on the front end. And so he goes back to his VCs and he tells them this idea, and his VCs, hate it because they're like, no, you're going to abandon SaaS. I mean, SaaS is like the holy grail, like B2B SaaS. You can't find one investor in the world that doesn't love B2B SaaS. It's recurring, it's predictable, it's high margin. So he's got all of the features of a nice, rich, beautiful business model. It just wasn't working. Like in this case, customers weren't buying the thing. And so Dane realized that he just needed a different business model. Yeah, it was going to be lower margin, lower multiple, but it was actually going to work. And he ends up, a good fan, he ends up just testing without telling his VCs. He like gets a truck and just starts testing it, figures out that there's real market pull and goes all in. And it turns out to be super good because, when he launches, he actually goes from zero to $150 million in revenue in 2 years, from zero to 10,000 customers in 2 years, which is just insane. Anyways, I posted about this on LinkedIn, and then the CEO, this guy, Juan, he has a comment that I love. He said, it's always odd that VCs are viewed as expert business leaders, quasi-entrepreneurs, when most have never actually started or run a business themselves. And that just struck because I'm like, it's just so true. There's something about the dynamics of capital allocators to those seeking capital. And it goes for everything. Like as VCs, for example, when you raise funds, we have the same power dynamics between us and our LPs. If you are like the hottest fund in the world, like you're a Sequoia or an Andreessen, then the power dynamic shifts and you have a lot more power. If you're like the hottest unicorn founder, Mark Zuckerberg in the 2000s when he was raising those rounds, the power dynamic shifts. But if you're 90% of VCs or 90% of founders, then this is the power dynamic. And it's one where the LPs have more power than VCs and where the VCs have more power than startups. And I think that it's that power dynamic that leads to many founders almost putting VCs on pedestals. And even worse, like many VCs feeling like they ought to be on pedestals. Like I think a lot, and I see this, like I sit in boards, and many boards are just like, it's basically a bunch of VCs and a couple founders. And you look around the room and it's like, these VCs, they never operated a startup. They've never been a CEO themselves. And they're getting all of this advice on best practices, this, best practices, that, because, they read it in some books, because they saw other companies do it. And like, it's fine, whatever, like you're transferring knowledge across, it's okay. But my point is, I think as a founder, like you really have to be aware of this and just take it with, almost be dubious to any advice that isn't in the circle of competence. I think that's one thing that really breaks when a whole class of people like VCs, and I'm not like, I'm a VC myself, like I like VCs, like this is just an observation, honestly. It's just that when these power dynamics play out, I think it's really easy for VCs as a whole to start thinking that they know more than they do. Because if you constantly get sought out as an expert, you start believing in yourself and you start thinking maybe you are an expert. And if people ask you for product advice, hey, how does this website look? How does my product look? They ask you for marketing advice on their marketing strategy. They ask you for sales advice. But guess what? You've never been a VP sales. You've never been a VP marketing. You've never done any marketing yourself. You never sold anything yourself. You never built a product. And here you are opining on it as though you're an expert. there's a problem there. Like something's broken there. And I think as a founder, you have to be very dubious of one, VCs that without even getting prompted are giving you advice on things outside of their circle of competence. Because when your ego gets inflated, you lose complete awareness that you even have. Like anybody, you have a circle of competence and you start just assuming that you know way more than you really do. And the second thing is when you ask VCs about things, it's fine, ask them about whatever you want, but understand their circle of competence. And if you're asking them about things that are outside what they really know, that's just one more opinion. I think VCs, what they really know about like is fundraising. I mean, that's the thing that we really are doing every day. We see pitches all the time. We know what a good deck is. We know what a good story is. We know what a good business model is. Like these are the things that we become experts on. But I think the problem is feeling like VCs, these expert business leaders that can opine on everything. And even by the way, like just to be clear, even people who have operated businesses, the other thing to think about, and going back to Dane's story, is you're the expert in this situation because you're the one that's closest to customers. And there's nothing wrong with going out and seeking other opinions and testing your ideas and seeking advice. But just be careful who you listen to and who you don't and how much emphasis you put on what they say. Because at the end of the day, even if the VCs that talked to Dane were operators, they weren't operators in that market. They hadn't spent day in, day out talking to coffee shop owners, seeing how coffee shop owners operated. That's the role of a founder. And that's why what's really important, and this is the thing that Dane also pointed out, is at the end of the day, your intuition, your gut, that's everything as a founder, because that's the thing that you're kind of sharpening without even realizing it. When you spend so much time with customers, you start to observe and understand these deep truths that maybe you can't necessarily spell out, but it's the reason why you might have like this sixth sense about what feature is really going to work, what marketing position is really going to work, what sales strategy is really going to work, because you know the customer set, you know the ICP so intimately, at least you should, right? That's the whole goal. And that's why you should keep spending so much time as close as possible with customers in their offices, in their places of work, because not only does that help you sharpen your instincts, which is really all you have, it also keeps the feedback loop super tight. So I think that's really the point here. Sure, you should seek advice, but don't put VCs on pedestal. Understand who knows about what, and ultimately trust yourself, because you're the one that's spending the time in this market. You're the one that in many cases knows best, and that's why you're the founder. That's why you're the CEO.